Namaste. Welcome to our continuing consideration of the 40 essential elements for successful sadhana. In other words, successful self realization. The element you have to have. Nobody goes into battle without a uniform and without a weapon or weapons. And having already done a lot of marching and toughened up and being able to fight, having made themselves physically strong. Therefore, for this battle, struggle, because it is when we battle and struggle with the ego and a lot of negativity outside, and nothing else, it's like climbing up a steep hill. And every step you take very deliberately and very carefully. And so these two are like steps, in a sense, that will keep lifting us up. All right. The 25th one says absence of backbiting. What it means is hypocrisy. You see, it's already said freedom from hypocrisy. That's point 24. This means very much, that one means not faking up to people as to you being something more than you are. All right, fine. This means not being false to a person at their face and then be absolutely opposite behind their back. In other words, you don't act friendly to them and then express that you hate them when they're not around. Or you don't act like you like them and you think everything's fine. And then as soon as they're gone, you've got a whole list of faults that you recite to people. Or you complain about them and act like they've somehow harmed you or in some ways betrayed you. You see, in other words, it's being two-faced. That's how we put it in English. I don't know if he was used to that term. So that's what he means. He means being positive to someone's face and negative behind their back. And not being straightforward. I remember Donna Jean. She was wonderful. She and her husband ran a small restaurant in Chicago. And she was, shall we say, a real personality. The husband did the cooking, he was in the kitchen. Donna Jean was the waitress. And I have no way to convey her. She was incredibly funny, both intentionally and unintentionally. And she was very, shall we say, intense. She was very courageous. The mob came in, the mafia. One of their ways of making money is through things like jukeboxes, as also these games, that with all the light up things and that you play. There's a name for it. I think I can't remember it. It was big when I was a child, but still they're there, and they make their money through that. And they came in and said, "We want to put in a jukebox." She said, "I don't want one." They said, "Do you want a business?" She knew they'd come burn her down. So she let them bring it in, all meek. And then, you see, they'd come every so often, of course, to take the coins out that were put in by the people who played the music. Well, as soon as they were out the door, Donna Jean just went up and she pulled the plug. And she figured they'd be back at a certain amount of time, and she got the day pretty well right, and she plugged it back in hardly a few hours before they showed up. Well, this happened 2 or 3 months. They said, "Well, this thing doesn't make any money," and they took it out. See? She's plenty smart. Plenty smart. And I was taken there by a man I met at the Russian Orthodox Cathedral there in Chicago at Kedzie Avenue. And he just loved Donna Jean because he said she's such a salty personality, which she was. And she was always very glad to see us, and she'd come and talk to us. And uh, anyway, he told me that he had just uh, 2 or 3 nights before we went together there, that he'd eaten in the evening there, and that there was this one man that came in, sat at the table, and Donna Jean just didn't go up to his table. And she waited on everybody else and new people that came in, and she just, as if he was invisible. And finally he said, "Hey, are you going to wait on me or not?" She said, "No, I'm not going to wait on you. I don't like you." And that was the end of that colloquy. So at least Donna Jean was to your face what she would be behind your back. So this is this absence of hypocrisy and it says duality. And and in other words, completely lying to people as to your real feelings and your real opinions. So this is important too. If Donna Jean didn't like somebody, she said, "I don't like you." And if she did, she'd say, "I'm glad you come in here." You always know where you were with Donna Jean. And that's the way it should be with the sadhaka. Okay? Straightforwardness, not attempting to conceal anything from a selfish motive. We've already used the term self straightforwardness before, but this means, in other words, consistency, being absolutely consistent. With all of us, what people see is exactly what they should get. No hidden charges, no hidden surprises, but they know right where they are. So if they don't like you, that's fine. Then they don't bother you. You figure that's okay with me, you know. You didn't come to this world to please anyone but God through the realization of God, through the realization of your own self. Okay. Then humility. Humility is not having a low opinion of yourself. Oh, I'm just nobody, I'm nothing. No. Humble people don't have any opinion about themselves because they're not centered on themselves and they're not totally involved with themselves. So they're neither arrogant nor fake humble and shrinking all back. They're just who they are. That's what genuine humility is between you and God. You know God's infinite and you know you're finite. And you don't grovel before God because God is also the self of yourself. But you know, I'm just a drop of the ocean and God's the ocean. And you never lose a perspective. But this phony humility has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Genuine humility. Genuine humility also does value itself realistically. We'll say namaste there and take up the rest of the list next time.